What's up, y'all?
Hi.
Well, sister,
Well,
it's been a lovely last week or two, really 2 weeks, sharing Jared and feeling all the response and the love from people we know, people we don't know.
I know.
It's been such a beautiful unraveling, and I just love that people are getting to know him, and I'm so excited to continue to open up myself to more community and this community to more people, that we know and some that we don't even know yet.
I know this is just the start of us having people on who can share their stories that we think are really impactful, and hopefully you'll think so too. And also, I'm going to speak for Jared, but he's been so happy to get positive feedback about him sharing his story. And yeah, I don't know if anyone can understand how meaningful that is after going through something so intense and so traumatic. And to hear people be non-judgmental and loving and accepting is such a gift. It is such a gift for him, and it would be for anybody who's gone through what he's gone through. So
yeah, and you have to think about it. His world has been so small for 2 decades, and just to open his world up to this overwhelming outpouring of love and, admiration and well wishes and stuff. I don't know. It's amazing for me to watch. I love it so much. It makes me smile.
Me too. I love it.
Anyways, I think that so much of the advocacy work that we share brings us back in personal conversation to this idea of building bridges between two worlds that we've lived in for our entire lives.
Yeah.
One being our community out here. We've definitely talked about it on this podcast, but one being our community at home and the other being our incarcerated family. Obviously, Ryan introduced us to that world through his struggles. And I say this to the guys all the time, but I spent so many major holidays with them. We did as a family, and so many major important moments with them and their families in visiting rooms. And Carly and I have continued that in our work that we've been doing for this last year or so of creating community in that space with them and kind of trying to not even really trying, but just finding joy in building this bridge between our two worlds. And so I think that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today is it's not limited to what we're doing. I think so many people can relate to straddling worlds and communities and experiences and not really feeling like you fully fit in one place, but rather maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe we can think of it as not as polarizing of
well, I think that last week or the week before, we went to this event for people who've been affected by youth incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a super emotional experience, really beautiful to see people who are dedicating their lives to making change about that very serious issue of kids being in cages, and just hearing personal stories and remembering our own personal stories from our own family members and stuff. All that is to say, we got in conversation with somebody at this event, and we were talking about this concept of growing up feeling like our peers maybe wouldn't be able to relate to us in certain ways. And so we never felt like we belonged, and it was so hard to open up and confusing about what was going on in our lives and where we could feel safe and stuff. And then on the flip side, we would also go into the facilities, into the prisons, and we also wouldn't, nobody can possibly feel like they belong there. It's hell. So we definitely didn't feel like we belonged there. And we had this confusion of where do I belong as kids? And even into I'll speak for myself, even into my young adulthood, I felt like this life experience kind of made me this, not outcast, that's kind of extreme, but it made me this just different person. And I a lot of it was my own self-talk, and my beliefs about my experience and what that said about me. And I allowed it to distance me from other people, and I allowed it to make me feel like I wouldn't belong anywhere. And I think through a lot of our healing and our trying to approach this life experience that we had head on and figure out how the hell did this impact me and what was this about? And then the impulse to want to share finally has shown me, actually, I feel like I belong everywhere. You know, I feel like I belonged where I grew up, and I feel like I belonged in that space with my brother getting through life, and now as I go back into that space and I talk to people that I don't know, that I kind of feel like I know because of shared life experience, I get this very real feeling that I've been given a responsibility to connect two different communities, and the image of a bridge and people being able to meet in the middle and understand each other is such a beautiful thing to me, because it's felt like we were living in a castle with a moat around it or something. And it's like, there's no swimming to the other side and everything's stressful. And visualizing this bridge where we can all come together and learn about each other, and with compassion and kindness and love, is just something that has given me so much life and so much motivation to move forward and see where this path is taking me, so that I can invest myself fully into learning more than I already know now and sharing what I do know, what I've experienced, and hoping that that connects to people, and either people can relate to it and feel seen, or they can see the humanity in the experience, and it might soften them in some way, shape, or form that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in the short period of time that we've been doing advocacy work this last year, me 9 months, you a year, and, you know, we've been periodically sharing it with people. This podcast has definitely propelled us into sharing, obviously, things so much more in depth and long form. But the response that I've gotten from my community, from the people that I work with, from the people that I grew up with, from people that I didn't even know growing up with, has been so overwhelmingly open-hearted and positive. And it's really inspired me. And I feel so grateful for it. And I feel grateful for people's willingness to open their hearts and their minds.
Me too.
You know, and I just really, like, if you're listening to this and you're someone who, even if you've privately done it and haven't even reached out to us and, you know, expressed, it's a beautiful quality in a human to be able to change your mind and be willing to lean into that.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, hard quality that not everybody possesses.
It's my favorite.
It's an amazing, amazing human quality. And we need more of it.
Yeah, we do.
We need more of it. And the only way we're going to get more of it is if we each individually decide that we are open to changing our minds about things that maybe we didn't know much about, or maybe we had preconceived notions about, you know? But, you know, I recognize too that there are a lot of layers of disconnect, because Carly and I grew up in a community that lacked diversity in every way possible.
Yes.
And that makes me sad looking back. That's something, like, for my kids, I want a melting pot for them to see all the beautiful faces and experiences of the world as best as possible, because I think it rounds you out in such an important way. It shows you what the world looks like rather than what your little bubble looks like, you know?
Yeah. I think it's about positive exposure.
Yeah.
Like, if one group of people has not had a lot of positive exposure to another group of people, then I think usually the negative projections and narratives about who someone is based on where they come from, or so fucked up what they look like, those tend to win over in people for some reason. Not tend to, that might be a little extreme, but they can if you don't have a lot of positive exposure or just general exposure. So
yeah, that's very true. And I think that that's, like, kind of what we're trying to do, is create positive exposure, because we've had the privilege of being a part of both of these communities and seeing the goodness in both of them, and trying to shed light on that goodness in both of these communities to each other, to understand that maybe certain things that they would have thought about each other, as I have so many preconceived notions about someone that I see walking down the street, you know, based off of my brain and what I have stored, you know what I mean? But just kind of highlighting and presenting that for people, because we have such a privilege of being exposed to so much beauty in so many different corners of the world right now in the life that we live. And that, like, really inspires me and fires me up, you know, to just kind of shout from the mountaintops of, like, how amazing.
Yeah.
You know, how amazing these people are that we get to touch and see, not actually touch. God damn.
You got to delete that word from your vocabulary.
I got to stop talking about touching people. I'm not trying to touch you. I'm talking about
come in contact.
Come in contact.
You need to just, like, in your sleep, like reprogram that word. It's like how people on all that TikTok video where it's like people will reprogram their parents' phones from hello to like throw that ass in a circle.
Yeah.
It's like every text is like, throw that ass in a circle, Sarah. They're like, I don't get what I'm saying. I said throw that ass in a circle. You need to do that with the word touch.
Okay. I'll work on that. I'm going to reprogram tonight. Sorry about it, y'all. I'm not, again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not trying to touch you, okay? Talking about come in contact with.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that we have been put in such a beautiful position in life because after having had a really devastating, intense life experience that changes your perspective on everything and introduces you to a new world that you wouldn't have been exposed to without that life experience, without Ryan, having earned that perspective and been shown that part of life gives us such motivation to, like you said, expose what we've learned. And we are privileged enough that we don't come from a community that this subject, this life experience impacts that much.
Yeah.
And so we've been given really the honor to share what we've been through with people and hope that the human element of it lands.
Yeah.
And potentially can open a doorway for other people to share their stories and for like the dire need for the dire need for change to resonate with people.
But then on the flip side of what you just said, something that you and I talk about all the time is as much as this doesn't affect our community, it's a lot closer than anyone understands.
It does. And I think that's what we're trying to also explain.
Yeah. Like in a couple different ways. There's the element of they are our community. 97% of them, 95% of them come back out into our communities. So they are our community members. It very much so affects us very closely. Every single one of us. We are funding the whole operation, from start to finish. But then there's the second side of it it doesn't take malicious intent for something terrible to happen and your life to change forever. The justice system is a lot closer to a lot more people than they can understand. And things happen. Things happen.
I know this is something that we've been talking about a lot recently, which is that people think that something like this will never happen to them.
Yeah.
Because our concept of the justice system without having had close contact with it is that the vast majority of the time it works and the truth prevails. And good-hearted people won't be fucked over by it, right? Like, oh, I'm a good-hearted person, or this won't affect me, or I'm rich, this won't affect me,
or good-hearted people won't do something wrong.
Right.
All types of people do wrong things and make mistakes.
Exactly.
Sometimes things just happen.
Exactly.
It's a lot more than those are 2 million evil people. That's really so fucking far from the truth. I can't even emphasize enough to you.
So far.
So far from the truth, but continue.
No, you're exactly right. That's exactly the point that I was wanting to get to, is that not everything is so clear cut in life. It's not just there's a right and there's a wrong. There are a million layers of what someone's intention was in a certain moment, what the driving force was. People make mistakes that are really horrific.
Yeah.
That end in a tragedy.
Yeah.
Even something that you didn't intend to do can end up being tragic, because oftentimes we live our lives just assuming that things are going to be okay when we're doing what we're doing. And then the one time that they're very much so not okay, it will change your whole life. And we can all be impacted in the blink of an eye. And for that reason alone, it makes all the sense in the world for us to understand how our systems truly operate.
Yeah.
Because they do affect you, whether or not you understand it. And then on a totally different level, it's not that far from reality that you could be hit with something serious.
No. And I hope that lands as a sobering reality, because it should be a sobering reality for everybody. But also not to scare anyone, but rather to empower people to learn and understand, and again, open their minds to what's real, what's true, challenge their belief systems about punishment and cruelty and an eye for an eye and different things that we all kind of toss around. Revenge. And
even I want to say,
yeah,
we put up the video of Jared coming home on various social media platforms. And some of the feedback we were getting was, well, what did he do? From strangers who maybe hadn't listened to the episode, but just saw the video on social media. And we were getting questions like, what did this person do, to go to prison for so long?
Mm-hmm.
And there were other strangers in the comments speaking back saying, it doesn't matter. He served his time and now he's done. And then, discussions about, well, it does matter still because this is a horrible person because whatever they did in the past. And it's such an interesting conversation to me because the assumption is that when somebody does one thing wrong for the rest of their life, they're an evil, horrible person that's completely incapable of change, no matter how many years they've had to reflect on their experience or to invest in themselves or to grow. Like the thought that someone has to be trapped forever in one decision that they made in life in the eyes of everybody and that they will forever be condemned because of one decision is so fucked up. Sometimes I think that this thought doesn't resonate, like it doesn't really click with people. But imagine the thing that you're most ashamed of that you've ever done in your life. Mm-hmm. And then it's public information and you will never, ever be let off the hook for it. Everything you ever want to do in your future will be tainted by that decision.
Well, that's your new name.
Yes.
You are not Casey Madden. You are X and X, whatever the crimes are,
Yes.
Burglar and this or I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to see you're saying it is.
Yeah. And then beyond that, the punishment is supposed to be the period of incarceration. Mm-hmm. When someone has served their sentence, which I have tons of thoughts about people being incarcerated in general. But besides that point, as it stands right now, the period of incarceration is supposed to be the punishment. Mm. So once it's over, they've served their time. That was the punishment. But it's not, the way that society treats it is that the punishment is forever. Yeah. And it should be as traumatic as it can possibly be. You should be deprived of everything a human being could possibly need. Why should they have air conditioning? Why should they have edible food? Why should they have blankets? Why should they have a TV? Why should they have any? It's like people want somebody to go basically just die. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even if they haven't killed somebody. It's like the mindset and the attitude is the same regardless of what happened. Mm-hmm. And it just goes back to every conversation we've had about this. And I'm going to beat this dead horse till the end of my life. Yeah. About the fact that we can't traumatize people into healing.
Yeah. So true.
And it was just really interesting for me to see the dialogue come about and to see people double and triple down, 10 toes down on no matter what you try to tell them about somebody's growth. Yeah. They don't care. Yeah. You asked a question, I gave you an answer, and you don't want to hear the answer. You just want to be stuck in your question.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So we had an overwhelmingly positive response on TikTok, particularly to his coming home video. It like really kind of blew up over there, which was so amazing to see. And people were so sweet. Like the comments on this video were just like, I love them all so much. But we had one little garden gnome in particular, one little troll. Mm-hmm. And he or she ended up Googling Jared's name and finding his case and then going on 2 different videos of him and saying what he was convicted of. Mm-hmm. And it sounds really bad when you look at it, Mm-hmm. We had Jared sitting on our couch for 3.5 hours explaining to the world what he was in prison for and what the actual story was. Mm-hmm. But it was such a reminder for me that everything is not what it seems at all. You can read something and it can be so far off from the truth of what actually happened, Mm-hmm. And this man or woman was committed to Jared being his crime. I said, you should listen to the episode. He talks all about the case. Like, he didn't hide anything at all, you know? And he was like, I'm all good. I'm sure he's a super impartial guy, trying to basically be like, he'd never actually tell the truth about what happened, you know? And it was such a reminder for me, first of all, that there are going to be some people that are just committed to their belief, or I don't even know what it would be, their belief system, their lack of desire to open their mind and learn something new, or be wrong, or have their assumption be challenged. And it was a good reminder and a good lesson for me. And, you know, he was just on his little troll shit. And what are you going to do about it? You just got to let him go.
Yeah. And also that, like you said, there was an overwhelmingly positive amount of feedback.
There really was.
People really honoring what he went through and genuinely happy for his survival and his like joy at coming home, you know? And that's so beautiful. And I think most of us can get so stuck in that negative feedback, even though it was literally one person.
It was one person.
Compared to, I don't even know how many people that were so
like
kind. And it's
70.
like having to reprogram my brain or just remind myself that these are hard conversations we're having.
Yeah.
We aren't coming to these conversations expecting for them to be easy for people to hear and for us all to just be on the same page. Like, naturally, I think people can be skeptical and people will have questions, and that's fair. People should have questions and people should learn. And hopefully you're open-minded enough to consider the response you get and learn something new potentially.
Yeah.
And change your mind if something makes sense to you. But overall, I would say the more I communicate about this, the less I'm in it to try and change people's minds. And the more I'm in it just to normalize the conversation being had. I just want to share what I have with people who need that opportunity to be uplifted, you know, after so much pain and hurt and just...
Or in a case like Jared's, to tell the real fucking story of what happened.
Yeah. And honestly, in any story, there's going to be the personal element that's undeniable of where someone was coming from and why their belief systems were the way that they were. And that is important. That's so important, because that gives us a touch point to be able to intervene in individuals' lives in our communities and potentially stop things from happening before they do.
Yeah.
You know? And so really that bridge metaphor has just been so strong in my mind. And whether it's talking about incarceration or anything else on the planet, I would love, and my goal would be to just constantly be a bridge to enable conversation and hopefully inspire understanding and just give people the opportunity to hear about something that might not feel that close to home for them.
Yeah.
And for it to just humanize us all.
Yeah. And beyond incarceration too, you know, I think Carly and I have a desire for this show, but even beyond this show, to just continue to, I just want to continue to change my mind. You know, I want to continue to, that's a real, like, something that I really value in my life and in my growth journey, is keeping a very malleable mind and constantly changing it if I feel that new information has been presented and old information doesn't resonate with me anymore, you know? And I would love to continue to facilitate and create a space for that to happen in my own life and growth. And hopefully, like, us as a community, we can kind of do that together. And within incarceration and even beyond that, just hearing people out for who they actually are and what their truth is, rather than what we've all projected onto each other as the assumed truth of someone else.
Totally. And I think too, while we were in the midst of our serious trauma, it felt hopeless all the time.
Yeah.
And it felt like no one cared. And as we've gotten back into this work, or just gotten into this work in general, it has opened up my world so much to show me how many people are devoting their lives to helping others. And you don't see that on the news, and you don't see that in your daily life that regularly. And so we kind of assume that it's not happening, but it's given me the gift of seeing how many people care.
Yeah.
And that has like re-energized my spirit in a totally different way. Like this past year has really reinvigorated me for life. And I think that's another reason why I personally want to share, is because I want people to feel like anything they've been through doesn't have to hold them back. It can, at the end of the day, end up contributing to your purpose wherever you are. And it can end up making you a more well-rounded, loving, compassionate, empathetic person if you choose to let it. And, you know, I've been saying kind of on social media a lot, and I think I've said on the podcast, but just pull on your thread, you know, pull on your thread. Whatever life has offered you, whatever life experience has been put in front of you, whether it's positive or negative, whatever has impacted you and really left a mark on you, pull on that thread whenever you're ready, and it'll lead you somewhere, even if it's just like deep self-awareness and healing on a level that you wouldn't be able to get without pulling on that thread. That is so important for the world. So
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And you know what? There might be a conversation of doing it before you're even fully ready. Sometimes you never feel like you're fully ready. You know, you just gotta, I actually need to take that advice. I need to not preach that to you guys, and I need to take that advice myself. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's been such a blessing. It's really reconnected me to a side of myself, and it's just opened my eyes to so much already in the short period of time that we've been exploring this, you know? So I feel super grateful. It was a very, very long, hard life. For a while there. And I didn't really see an exit strategy there for a bit. And it was nothing short of really fucking painful and really difficult. And I hate to be that guy, but it has definitely contributed to immense growth in my life. And I've made it. By taking it and cracking it open and cracking myself open. And I know that you've done the same. And I'm very, very, very grateful for the journey.
Grateful for Ryan.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
that's a different conversation.
Yeah, it really is. And we'll go there at some point. But honestly, he walked a walk. He freaking army crawled.
Yeah, I was about to say
life.
He crawled, man. He got dragged.
So that we could fly, really. And like, he definitely has handed us deep, meaningful purpose in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And there's no way I could ever repay him for like what he has taught me and opened my eyes to. And I'm so grateful for it. And I love you, buddy.
So grateful too.
So we're trying to be a bridge here. And hopefully you guys will join us. And I think we've just wanted to have the opportunity to articulate our goal.
Yeah.
And our intentions.
Yeah.
With everything that we're doing. And like we said before, whether it relates to incarceration or not, we feel so blessed with the position that we've been put in life and with what we've seen, positive and negative. And I think both of us just feel a responsibility to share what we understand and what we know, and also give the floor to other people who know a lot more than us.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Who are beautiful souls who will be able to contribute to the cause.
Teach us all so much.
Yeah.
Yay.
So short and sweet, but we love you guys so much. Thank you for hanging with us up until this point. Honestly, it's been a beautiful experience, even just in a couple months, getting to share little parts of life that we care about that are deeply meaningful to us. And any feedback you guys have given us has meant more than you can possibly understand. Like, it has been just a beautiful experience getting to connect over shared life.
It really has. If you want to come follow us on social media.
Oh yeah, we need to do this.
We have a TikTok. We have a Tiki-Talkie. It's at Safe Space Convos. And our Instagram is also at Safe Space Convos.
Yes. And so is our YouTube.
Which we are going to post on.
Which we are really lacking.
We are going to post on that at some point. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to post on that. We are posting on it. But anyways, if you want to hang with us more regularly, please come over there. But anyways, yeah, we appreciate you so much and love you and hope you're having a beautiful week wherever you're at. It's almost Friday, you guys. We're almost there, baby. We almost there. If you're not listening to this on Friday, and if you're listening to this on Friday, let's fucking go. We made it.
Turn up, babe.
We made it to the weekend.
It's the freaking weekend.
It's the freaking weekend.
Okay. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.